purpose isn't always found in what makes you feel good, right? It's found in the edification of the specific people who you are uniquely designed to serve. I'll say that again. Your purpose is found in the edification of the intended community that you are divinely and uniquely designed to serve. EmpowerYou Podcast is devoted to bringing real-world wisdom and encouragement to our listeners, fans, subscribers, and friends. We talk about a multitude of life principles and the process from an economic, societal, and cultural perspective. We believe that in tough conversations and shared wisdom, we can pave the path and leave a ladder for the future. So subscribe to our channel, rate, review, and let us empower you. Welcome to EmpowerYou Podcast. My name is Kibwe Cooper. I'm so excited that you're here today. Today is a very special day. Today is the 100th episode of EmpowerYou Podcast. I will not have any guests today. It's just me, but I kind of want to walk us down the path of how we got here. I want to first start off with gratitude and thank God for allowing me to be able to do this. My life has gone through a lot of different changes, and yet I've been able to continue to produce EmpowerYou Podcast and reach thousands and thousands of people internationally. And I've been able to do a lot of other things as a result of this podcast. Some things that, you'll maybe find on social media, but then others that you just won't because they are private, right? Maybe it's a DM, maybe it's messages, maybe it's comments that people make to you when they see you out somewhere. But I've been blessed to be able to produce something that has helped so many people. And I'm just so incredibly grateful. Thank you to all of you who are listening, who share, who support, who leave 5 stars, who leave reviews, who continue to come back week after week. I truly appreciate you. And I want you to know that. Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about finding purpose. The journey of EmpowerYou Podcast has been very interesting. And so I wanted to share some of that with you. And I hope that you find a lot of value in it because, it's very valuable to me. So we'll go ahead and get started. Give me just a second here. Awesome. All right. So first of all, I come from a big family. I'll tell you just a little bit about my backstory. I come from a very big family. I have 5 sisters and another brother, raised in a 2-parent household. And, my childhood left me with a desire to give back, right? We lived in Gary, Indiana. It was a tough environment to grow up in. But God blessed, and we were all able to be safe and live through it, even though there was a lot of turmoil around us. I grew up with very intelligent, hardworking parents who were very God-fearing, and we had a lot of faith in the household. We didn't always have a lot of other things in the household because, life gets life-y, right? So we grew up with a lot of faith and not so many means at times. And so for me as a young Black boy in a very turbulent city, I began to research. I began to look for ways to increase my situation, to better myself, to become educated. I learned more and more things both in Gary, but then as I began to progress and moved out of Gary and moved away from Gary, I still pursued my education. I got a degree as an audio video engineer. I got a degree in communication. I went through the process of bettering myself. And I learned a lot more about the world, how people treat you, environments you need to operate differently in, how to take care of yourself even more, how to be really independent. But I was still very, very much empty. I had gotten an education. I had struggled through college. I was challenged in many different areas, but I would continue to overcome and rally back and to work hard. And then when I graduated from college, I just felt very, very empty. I didn't know what to do. Started to get involved in some bad relationships, started to party a lot. And, I just wound up kind of wasting some time there, wasting some years. And then in 2016, I lost my mother. And she passed away in a matter of 2 weeks, and it just completely shattered my world. I had spent several years not really engaging in a relationship the way that I should have. And then in 2016, she passed away. And so I was going through a lot at that time. I lost another significant relationship at that time as well with a lady that I was talking to, and there was a lot of moving parts there. I left the job that I was working during that time, which I had become to get really miserable working at. And I just started to self-isolate. I started to grieve. And I did all of the unhealthy things you shouldn't be doing, especially when you're grieving, right? I was drinking a lot. I was smoking a lot. I fell into cycles of very deep, dark depression. And I didn't really tell anybody how low I was getting, right? I didn't really express how much pain I was in, because I just didn't know how to verbalize it. For all those who are listening, maybe some of you get this, maybe some of you don't, but for those who understand, there are situations in life, there are seasons in your life you just will never be ready for. And that's just a reality. And that's why it's so important that you have good people around you, that you have good influences, because inevitably, when things occur that you just can't prepare for, those anchors will help you stay solid. And during that time of my life, I didn't really have a great anchoring system. I was just kind of afloat, and I lost a lot of myself during those years. And so at a certain point, after a particularly dangerous incident that I had found myself in, I began to ask God 3 questions. And I remember it distinctly because I was driving down Fairfield Avenue here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, in my royal blue Buick LeSabre, which I loved that car. But I was broken. I was so empty and so tired of being sad, and so tired of crying, and it was just a lot. And so I started to ask God 3 questions. Why, what, and who? Why am I here? That was the first question. Why? To work some job that I don't care about, to live on autopilot and just do this 9-to-5 thing and hope things work out, hope more exciting things or more fulfilling things happen in my life, work for these organizations that only care about making money and leaving everybody else behind. Why am I here? And then the next question I asked was, what am I supposed to be doing? I've got all these talents and gifts. I've always known that, that I could sing and that I could write, and, I was a charismatic person. People enjoy being around me. I try to make things better. But what am I supposed to be doing with this collection of items, of gifts, of things that I can do well? What exactly am I supposed to be doing with it? And then the final question was, who am I meant to be? I was raised by righteous man and woman who were very God-fearing, and they taught me to pray, and they taught me to seek God, and to allow myself to be vulnerable, and to be humble, as I pray to my Creator, to God. And I've always had grand ideas of myself. I come from an environment of faith, and so I believed a lot of myself. I have high expectations for myself. I have ever since I was a very young man. I believed that I should be a king. I should be a dignitary. I should be a leader. I should be a mover and a shaker. But who am I meant to be? That was my question. Like, who am I meant to be? I got all these ideas, but who am I actually meant to be? What direction should I actually be facing in? Because I don't want to just exist. I just don't want to just exist. And so I prayed that prayer. I don't know how many times. I don't know for how long, probably several months. I stayed in this state of just looking, just being open to whatever, whatever was available, right? Whatever inclinations would come, I would investigate them. Like, well, maybe this is something I should do. And I'd be like, I don't know about that. Move on to something else. Because I wanted something that felt right and that felt good for me. And then so sometime after that, I've been praying this prayer. I've been seeking God. I've been, trying to be open to what my divine design is meant to do. And for those of you who are listening to this, who may get turned off by certain language, just understand that you have a divine design, right? You are individually and uniquely made to do something. And when I talk about God, when I talk about, my creator, I view these things as being somewhat synonymous. We can get into the theology of a lot of things, but I want you to understand that you were created for a purpose and that there is a higher power that you can check into. Maybe that's not particularly the way that you believe, but I'm just sharing that with you. And so sometime after, I'm going through this process, I got an opportunity to get on more stages. I got into more plays. I started singing more. I started to perform more. I'm starting to explore the performance abilities, the abilities I have to move people and to speak into people. And it was going well. People liked it. People loved it. People would give me more opportunities. And then shortly after that, I was contacted by a woman named Chanel, who asked me to pose in some pictures for the local cinema center. For those of you who live in Fort Wayne, it's right off of Clay in Barry. And so I went and I met her and some other people, and it was a really cool time. And, we all kind of shook hands and went our ways, and then a few months later, that same woman invited me to be a part of a digital storytelling competition that she was putting together. And it's there where I filmed, my very first documentary with my really good friend Stefan, who's now creating films and commercials in the Bay Area. But while filming that documentary, I met a man named Dr. Aiden. Dr. Aiden was so impressed with me and Stefan, he invited me over to his house and he told me about some stuff he had been working on. He introduced me to the world of digital marketing and online sales, online coaching, and it just blew my mind. My eyes became open, and I saw a path that would lead me beyond what organizations could do for me, and it gave me power back. It gave me an opportunity to do something for organizations, to provide my skill set in an equitable fashion for organizations that I wanted to work with, or organizations and individuals that I wanted to work with. Rather than always just being a receiver, I could be a giver, right? It's more blessed to give than to receive. I always want to be, if I can, be in a position to give to other people. I don't always want to be the one asking. I don't enjoy asking particularly. I'd much rather be a giver. And so this gave me an opportunity to be a giver. I could provide something. And because I was providing it, I could take control of how I was making money and how I was elevating my life and all these different things. And so that opened up a brand new idea for myself, right? So over the next few years, I created several online products, whether it was filmmaking, audio engineering, podcasting. I created more and more modules, more and more recordings, more and more editing, more and more work and color and lighting. And I just dove into it head first. I tried to launch my first filmmaking a program, and it fell flat. I tried to launch it again, and it fell flat again. And I was very, very discouraged. But at the same time, I realized that this entire process was something anybody was going to go through, and that this is my story. And I was like, I need to document this. And I said to myself, I'm going to start a podcast, and I'm going to demonstrate every stumble that I've had, so that other people don't have to deal with it. I'm gonna bring people on who I needed to speak to 10 months later or 10 months earlier, before I had made some bad decision, and I'm gonna put them all in one room so that everybody can really, and people just like me who didn't come from this world of having means, who didn't come from this world of having great information, who didn't come from a world where people share great ideas, like that's just not where I came from. And so I wanted to document a process to make it easier for the next young person, the next person just coming out of college, so that, they could overcome at a much more rapid rate than myself. And so I realized that I needed to start a podcast. And so I was like, all right, bet, I'm going to start a podcast. So I started looking into more podcasting. I had already been listening to podcasts, but I was like, this is the time, right? And it will allow me to pave the path for other people, so they don't have to stumble as much as I did. And I decided that podcast was going to be named EmpowerYou Podcast, right? This is all happening mentally. And then the pandemic happened, right? And then the murder of George Floyd happened. And I was livid. I was like many other Black and brown folks at that time, who were really just fed up, who were very frustrated, who were very over it, who were tired of constantly being ignored, and didn't feel like they were valued as human beings in society. And so I began to get involved in a lot of more activism. I began to see, because now I'm starting to put pieces together, right? I'm like, all right, so now I know that I can perform. So those are some abilities that I can draw on. Now I know that I enjoy the world of digital marketing, and so I can start to become and build my own audience, basically. And then the next thing was like, I'm passionate about people. I'm passionate about helping. I'm passionate about paving a path for others. And so maybe activism, maybe, politics is the way to go. And so I started to get more into activism and politics and things like that. And there was that same friend, Chanel, who years later, after having given me an opportunity to be in part of the digital storytelling competition, she kind of pulled my coattail when she saw me, really diving into this stuff. And she said, you don't have to be a politician. You don't have to be somebody's spokesperson. You don't have to be what any of these people want you to be in order to create the impact that is in your heart to create. You just have to decide what you're going to do and do it. And that really changed me. That really gave me a different insight on the way that I was pursuing my goals. I'm still desiring to answer those three questions. You know what I mean? Like why, what, and who. And so I'm trying to figure out the who at this point. I'm trying to figure that out. Like, who am I supposed to be? How am I supposed to put these things together in order to become this person? And when Chanel told me that, I was like, that's so true. I can just do it myself. It might take longer. I may not have the kudos. I may not have the built-in audience. People may think I'm uppity or something like that, but I can totally do this. And I'm going to, because I refuse to constantly pitch everybody else's narratives. I refuse to constantly pitch everybody else's agenda. When in reality, most of these agendas are very self-serving. And so I decided to step away from the activism. I stepped away from the politics. I stepped away from some of those circles, because I realized that you don't really want me. You just want the gifts that God has given me. You just want the gifts of my grand design to leverage to give you what you want. And I don't have to be a part of that if I don't want to. And so I stepped away from a lot of things. I stepped away from a lot of things. And so I started to really focus in on EmpowerYou Podcast. And on May 1st, 2020, I launched my very first podcast episode of Empower You Podcast. And, I've been podcasting ever since. I started posting and recording and speaking, and I did everything I could do to start building more and more momentum and more traction. People were starting to respond to it. They started to really enjoy it. People were liking, sharing, commenting, subscribing, leaving reviews, leaving 5 stars. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And then I really started to see some traction because people started to ask me, well, how are you doing this? Can you teach me how to do this? Do you have this, or do you have these resources and things like that? And I was like, not yet, but I'm about to. And so on my 30th birthday, I decided amidst the pandemic to go live with my website, to go live with my training platform, the Guru Guide to Podcasting program. And then folks enrolled, people enrolled, and I was so thrilled. I was creating people's podcasts. Several different folks had launched their podcasts. I was doing consultations, all kinds of stuff. It was my first successful launch, and then later on that year, I went on to make several $1,000s from EmpowerYou Podcast through creating programming that was enriching other people. And so I felt so blessed, and I felt so like it was right within me, right? And I realized in that moment why I'm here, and I'm here to serve, to be an example and a light for those who are coming behind me, right? To demonstrate the perfect imperfection and the attainment of a better life. That's what I believe I'm here to do, to sacrifice, to surrender in order to let God magnify the possibilities that can be granted to an individual who refuses to give up, right? Because we all have divinity within us, but if we refuse to surrender to that, we refuse to investigate those hard places, none of that light can get out. And so my job, the reason I'm here, is to demonstrate in a perfectly imperfect way what that looks like in real time, right? What that looks like for Kibwe, and to hope that light that reaches you through my own actions empowers you to live your own life and to move forward the way that you are designed to move forward. Okay, I also realized what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be teaching, and not necessarily like in a classroom, but crafting stories, creating narratives is teaching us how to view one another. Creating podcasts and these online mentorship platforms is teaching us how to handle adversity, how to interpret situations, how to overcome difficulty. And for me, that's super important. And so I'm supposed to teach, right? And that's what I'm doing, and my hope is that I can highlight the divine nature that we're all created in, that God created us in, so that we can, if we choose, we can surrender to that, right? We can surrender to that light, to those commonalities that even though we may be from different backgrounds or different area codes, different states, different, countries, we are all created with similar, very, very similar needs, desires, wants, passions, and that's a godlike trait, right? That's a godlike trait. I don't understand how we can look at ourselves, look at nature, look at plants, and not see that we are godlike. And so in order for us to really gain unity, gain power, gain understanding of one another, we have to reference the divinity that is within us all. And if we choose to surrender to that spirit, to to surrender in the spirit of expectation and non-attachment, anything is possible. And when I say expectation, you expect to find commonalities with your neighbor, with somebody who doesn't look like you or maybe speak the same language. You expect to find those similarities, and you're non-attached to to your own ideas, your own ego about how things should or shouldn't be, because you and your life and your opinions are completely crafted by the specific environment that you came up in. And so when you are removed from those environments, all of the variables that you hold to be true may become far more fluid, because in the surrounding that you're in, they don't make as much sense. And so that's what I feel like I'm created to do. And then finally, who I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be a leader. I'm supposed to be a servant of the people and of the community. I'm supposed to be, most importantly, a vessel for what God's promises of abundance, of wisdom, of mercy, of grace, of gratitude can be. I believe that I am here to represent those things. And so I use Empower You Podcast to allow me to accomplish those three major questions that I asked in a very dark time in my life, which was, why am I here? What am I supposed to do? And who am I supposed to be? You see, purpose isn't always found in what makes you feel good, right? It's found in the edification of the specific people who you are uniquely designed to serve. I'll say that again. Your purpose is found in the edification of the intended community that you are divinely and uniquely designed to serve. And by enriching those people according to your grand design, your purpose will be fulfilled. By sowing into those specific communities, those specific people who you are designed to work with, to speak to work for, to serve, all other things will start to come from that, right? And you could find abundance. That doesn't mean you have to be poor. That doesn't mean you have to be sickly. That doesn't mean you have to be destitute. You can find abundance in all of that. And I want to demonstrate that. And I am demonstrating that in my own life, right? Purpose is a gift. Purpose is a gift and a responsibility to perpetually press your way towards the goal of reaching, of impacting, of serving more people, right? Purpose is resistant to perfection, and it embraces gratitude. It embraces authenticity. It embraces forgiveness. It embraces perseverance. You know, purpose is not about being perfect, because perfection does not create transformation. Imperfection and community create transformation, right? Empower You Podcast has taught me over these past 100 episodes more than I ever could have imagined. And through all of the ups and downs, through all of the different situations that have happened in my life, it has been there for me. And it's always just been there, waiting for more attention, waiting for me to light up and do something more. And it's always offered me grace. The audience has offered me grace. The guests have offered me grace. And if you're fortunate enough to find your purpose in life, I pray you hold it close and that you sacrifice and you surrender for it. Because if you build your life around what you're uniquely designed to do, you will always be on the winning side. You will always be settled in your spirit, knowing that at least I'm doing all that I can do to be what I'm supposed to be, who I'm supposed to be, and to serve the purpose that I'm here to serve, right? And for those of you who maybe have not found your purpose yet, maybe you're rediscovering your purpose. Maybe your life has changed significantly, and so now you're recentering. I encourage you to ask yourself those three questions. What, why, and who? Ask yourself. Become a student of that process. Open yourselves up to those answers. Create a routine around it. If you pray. Ask God, why? Why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing, and who am I supposed to be? If you meditate on those answers. If you're the type of person who likes to go out in the woods and write journals and just be out in nature, take those questions with you and walk with them and see if you don't encounter the answers. Once you've separated from all the technology and all the noise and you're just by yourself in the quiet, ponder these questions. If you remain open, I promise you, you will find what you're looking for. You will find the answer. And I can promise you this because I'm no better than anybody else. I have so many different challenges. I have so many different things that I'm actively working on. I have my own faults and downfalls. And so if it can happen for me, it can certainly happen for you. And so I want you to take some time this week. That's my thought exercise for you today. Let's take some time this week and write down what, who, and why, what, and who. Answer those 3 questions, and I guarantee you the rest of this year is going to look a lot different for you. I guarantee you your friend group is going to look a lot different to you. Your finances are going to look a lot different to you. The way that you look at your life is just going to look a lot different. And so if you'll take some time to do that, let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments or in the reviews how you felt about the thought exercise. I'd love to hear from you. I'm so grateful for all of you who have shared, who have liked, subscribed, reviewed, spoken to me in person, sent me notes on social media. I am so grateful for you, and I really, really pray that God blesses you for listening, that you find value, that your Creator smiles on you and blesses you in some special way. I don't know what any of you all are dealing with, but I know we all have our own crosses that we bear, and I hope that this podcast enables you to gain more perspective and to carry it a bit lighter as you continue to move through your week and through your day. So thank you guys so much for listening to this 100th episode of Empower You Podcast. I cannot wait for the next 100 episodes. I have so many ideas and plans, and I can't wait to share them with you. So thank you again. God bless y'all. I'll talk to you guys super soon. Peace. Empower You Podcast is devoted to bringing real-world wisdom and encouragement to our listeners, fans, subscribers, and friends. We talk about a multitude of life principles and the process from an economic, societal, and cultural perspective. We believe that in tough conversations and shared wisdom, we can pave the path and leave a ladder for the future. So subscribe to our channel, rate, review, and let us empower you.